Hello, everybody, and welcome home. It's Poland Daily Traveler, and we're glad to see you. You're looking good. With me in the studio, Nicholas, unbelievably, sartorially resplendent, and just exuding aplomb.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
I don't know what that means.
Very gracious welcome.
What is aplomb?
What aplomb? It sort of means savoir-faire, I suppose.
Savoir-faire, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And on I call it on the line, you know, through the www.
On the satellite link.
The satellite link. We have in Estonia, our Estonian correspondent, our Baltics correspondent, soon to be our correspondent in Helsinki as well. Just the guy who knows the whole area. St. Petersburg, Stockholm. We can send him anywhere. It's Harold von Kursk wearing
Greetings, Nicholas. Greetings, Preacher Will. I'm in a rather laissez-faire mood today.
Well, that's good to know. Listen, we're talking about on the last episode, you were both making wonderful and appropriate comments and interesting comments about the difference between being a traveler and a tourist. And there is a difference. And everybody out there watching knows that there's a difference, and you may have your own reasons. But I have in my hand a top 10 list of things that if you do these things, you may be a tourist. Shall I start?
Yes.
Okay. Right? If your idea of a foreign food is Le Big Mac, you may be a tourist.
Definitely a tourist.
Mm-hmm. If your idea of a castle can be found at Disney, you may be a tourist. If you mistake small foreign cars for golf carts, you may be a tourist. If you think ketchup is a necessary spice, you may be, or a condiment, you may be a tourist.
Condom?
If you enjoy traveling with an annoying group of people that you eventually come to hate, you may be a tourist. They're like on a boat trip. Have you ever been on a cruise?
I've never been on a cruise. The idea horrifies me.
No, I've been on one. It is as horrifying as you can imagine.
Especially on these cruise ships now, it's sort of so huge. I mean, it just multiplies, in my mind, it just multiplies the amount of horror to which you're subject.
No, I mean, I used to run. I took one of these things with my mother, and it was after my father died. She wanted to, you know, go on a trip.
There is a company in England. There are these cruises you can do, which look quite exciting. In the Mediterranean, they take very small numbers of people, and then they're on this boat, but they have lecturers and people, so you can learn about the culture and go ashore and see these great sites in Italy and Greece and so on. I think that's what I did. That sort of cruising, I think, would be very attractive.
That's what I did, but it was a boat full of a huge amount of people, and all you do is you run as quickly as you can off the boat and go by yourself.
But these are much
somewhere.
smaller boats, only a dozen people or so, and you have proper university lecturers and people, so it's quite academic. But I imagine that would be very agreeable.
A bunch of university lecturers, that would be horrible. You may be a tourist if you arrive in Hamburg and then endlessly search for the Hamburger Museum.
Yes. Well, you'd be very delusional if that's what you thought.
Yeah. You'd be in a lot of trouble, wouldn't you? Yeah.
You wouldn't find it.
You may be a tourist if you order Cherries Garcia in a Roman ice cream shop. Cherries Garcia is Ben and Jerry's flavor, right?
Yeah.
No. It's not likely to be in a Roman ice cream shop. Is it, Harold?
Definitely not. And in Rome, they don't use the term ice cream.
Gelate.
Sì, signore.
Thank you. You may be a tourist if you think the British drive on the wrong side of the road. That was for you, Nicholas.
Yes, thank you. Well, we drive on the correct side of the road.
Our writers were busy
yes,
writing these for days, actually. And most of them stolen from old Johnny Carson.
You can tell.
Yeah. And finally, number one, you may be a tourist if you think the Blue Grotto is Paris's most popular disco.
But I think what you've identified there are actually traits of American tourists rather than tourists in general. Mm-hmm. I think that's part of it. But I mean, I think...
Well, I know, if you're from Vietnam, you're not going to think that.
You're going to think any of
example.
these things, no.
No, but you might think that a
Although
castle is on
British
Disney.
tourists who go visit the Balearic Islands or can be found in Ibiza. I mean, they rank along with Americans as the worst tourists.
Oh, I agree. And this is...
Euro trash, they call them.
And if you go to Krakow, for example, here, these days, last time I was in Krakow, I was just surprised to see how many bars, how many of the old buildings have been turned into bars where they're selling alcohol at ridiculously cheap prices. And if you're selling alcohol at such cheap prices, you can only attract a certain type of customer, in fact.
Yeah, people who want to get
exactly
paralytically drunk.
So you can hardly complain if you have paralytically drunk people around the town if your town is catering for that particular mentality.
Yeah, it's not a good catering.
It's not a good arrangement.
Come spend your money here, get blind drunk and annoy everybody.
Exactly. That's not the sort of tourism one wants to promote, I imagine.
Yeah, that is tourism too. It's not traveling.
I mean, why not stay at home? If you're going to just drink yourself into oblivion, why not stay at home and do
Why not stay at home in your trailer?
Save the airfare and just buy more alcohol.
Stay at home in your trailer and drink
Exactly,
yourself
yes,
into oblivion.
I guess.
On Ozark.
Ozark, yes.
Yeah, the Langhorns or whatever they're called. On
the
Lang
series.
Trees. I don't remember the name of that.
But I mean, I think
remembers.
travel is something which, if you look at all the great travel writing, these are books written by people who had the luxury of being able to spend months or years pottering around and absorbing the flavour of places and then gradually moving on. I mean, one of the best books on travel, and it's more than on travel, is James Morris's book on Venice. He was a Times correspondent in Venice in the 1960s, I think. But this book is marvellously evocative of a description of a city. In this case, Venice, and it's just a beautiful book. And it's not a...
Good travel writing is at a premium these days.
Because it's not about just ticking off every museum, Doge's Palace or whatever. It's about his whole impression of living there. The restaurants, walking around the streets when it was dark and foggy at night, all these sorts of things to create
this is traveling. The atmosphere.
It is. It's a bit like, as I say, it's very probably poor analogy, but it's a bit like the difference between a photograph of somewhere and an impressionist painting. Mm-hmm. The impressionist painting does not give you the photographic resemblance, but it does, as the name says, gives you this impression. And you think of some of the great impressionist paintings you see of well-known sites.
Excellent.
And that's, I think, that is the difference, I think, between travel and tourism. The photograph is the tourism, and the impressionist painting is the travel. If we switch the writing to an artistic analogy, that would be my say.
So writing terms, it would be your subjective impression.
Yeah, but I do have sympathy
facts.
for tourists in the sense that if people are interested enough to visit a foreign country, they do, by definition, it may be the only time in their lives they get to this place, and they will want to see the famous sites. And I don't think we should be too sort of patronising and say, well, you're just a stupid tourist because you tick off these boxes. Not everybody has the time and the money to say, well, I want to see France, I'm going to spend the next 6 months or a year living there. That is not open to everybody. If you only have a fortnight, or if you're flying from America, for example, this may be one of your few trips to Europe in your lifetime. I can understand why you would feel the need or be encouraged by the travel company to go and see as many of these sites as you can. Yes, but unfortunately, you get frustrated, I imagine, because you're trying to cram too much into too short a time, and so you're worn out by the end of your holiday.
That's a great danger.
Harold, 30 seconds. We got to end the episode.
Well, I would recommend that people who are interested in capturing the spirit of traveling would read, of course, Paul Theroux and Bruce Chatwin, who are two of my most beloved writers.
Yes.
Yeah, they're both great writers. I remember them. Yeah.
And I would also add Shiva Naipal as well, who died tragically. But and of course, one of his great books about Southern Africa, North of South, a bit dated now, but a fantastic book.
And if you like something more humorous, that's also more recent from the last, say, 30 years, because before that we could talk about all the great travel. I mean, Hemingway is virtually a travel writer in his own right, but in many of his books. But that would be... now I've forgotten who I was going to say. Bill Bryson.
I was going to say Bill Bryson. Very funny.
Who I met and interviewed one time. But that's another story for another time. And in fact, at the beginning of his career, he was just starting to be famous, but he'd been working as a journalist.
But of course, if we're talking about, since his Polish travel, called Ryszard Kapuscinski. A lot of his
who I knew as well.
travel writing. Well, his
As it
books are good travel writing as well.
Oh boy, those are the days. Where are they now? Where are they now?
The world has changed.
The world has changed
Or
too much.
Stanislav Lem, but he wrote about a different type of space.
No, that's science fiction. Charles Dickens. What are you doing? Harold, stick to the subject. All right, we're going to love you and leave you in Estonia. Thanks, everybody, for watching. On the next show, on the next episode, we'll be discussing bullfighting. Is it something that you should be seeing? Is it something you should be watching? Is it a travel destination? We're going to discuss it in depth in the next episode of Poland Daily Travel from the studio. Thanks for watching, and hang in there.